All right, here we go. Week 2, bin 2. Dry on top. No worms, no castings, no moisture. It's all down here. Now, in the water tub, this is the middle bin, which has typically turned out to be the hottest of the bins. Usually there's a lot of worms up in here. A lot of them have crawled out and gone into the water tub, which I had to fish out earlier. And if you guys have not had an opportunity to see the bin 1 video for week 2 here, I give all the backstory of everything that happened the previous week and some of the things that I'm looking to try to achieve this week. If you want to check that out first and then loop back around, go ahead. If not, just sit back and enjoy. So here we go. Some castings, some bedding, a lot of moisture. If you haven't seen the first video yet, I got a feeling this is going to be much the same. Watch this. Worms are still all on the sides of the bins as they were in the first week, and with good reason. See how clumped up the bedding is? This isn't nearly as bad as bin number 1, but it was so bad that the worms were still pretty much just staying on the sides. And these African night crawlers, I'm gonna tell you what, they are naughty boys and girls. They, well, I guess they're both. They love to wander, and they have not been bashful in doing so. I pulled out 60 just before I started filming tonight from the water tub, and who knows which bins they came from, so I'm putting about 20 in each bin after we do all of our work here. But this looks a little bit better than the first bin. It's still very it's very damp in here, and I'm gonna put some additional bedding in before I feed again. But let's take a look at the center section where we last put our food. There's a worm right there. He may have come over from when I was folding everything across. But no, there's another one there too. You can see them or not at the top of my hand here on my pinky. So yeah, it looks like the middle bin here, we may have had some worms that were actually trying to get to the food, which would definitely be nice if that was the case. Now, if you remember, I put everything from hard-boiled eggs to some banana peels and some rice in here, and it does look like there's remnants of each. Obviously, banana peels. The eggs are kind of still in here. That's where everything was at. I'm kind of surprised the smell isn't worse, to be honest with you. I was expecting a much worse smell, but not as bad as I actually thought it was going to be. I'm pushing everything over because I am going to be adding bedding to this to try to dry things up a little bit, maintain an appropriate moisture level. Not as much as I put in number 1, but still. Mix things up a little bit and kind of air it up. I think it might help the worms as the bins continue to cycle. They're basically going through the mesophilic stage right now, which is probably between about 68 degrees Fahrenheit to as high as 113 degrees. I had mentioned in video 1, or excuse me, the video for bin 1, that I've been trying to keep temperature checks during the day and in the evenings, and the bins look to be maintaining ambient temperatures both in the day and the evenings. So it's been around the 90s during the day and more around the 80s in the evenings. So that's fine and everything. What I'm really concerned about is when it hits the thermophilic stage, and that's when it gets up above 115 and sometimes even hotter. Now, some of the food is obviously going to get mixed in here with this bedding to try to dry things up a bit. That's okay. I'm going to put another small feeding in today, believe it or not, but I just want to try to get things dried up just a little bit. There's enough moisture in here with the plastic cover that they're not going to be pressed for moisture. It's not going to get too dry on them in here. It'll be fine. I'm also adding some, believe it or not, those are brown leaves. I'm not putting a lot of either in any of the bins right now, just trying to find that balance. And because I didn't have a chance to put these through the proper heating phases that they really needed, this is going to be a process that's going to probably take at least a month, maybe longer. And I don't like being this rough either in the bin normally, but I've got to try to mix this up, get the food in, put the worms back, and get this thing covered up and sealed up so they can get back to doing what they do. I've been concerned because they've really been evacuating the bin a lot already before this point, and I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was so matted they couldn't even get through it. So, and you got to remember, I mean, these are new bins. I mean, these bins are brand new. They haven't had a chance to go through an appropriate cycle. These worms are mature worms that came from, an outdoor environment where they had, basically their bedding and their food were one and the same. It was pig and cow manure. So they're already used to being in mature systems, and now they're in something that's obviously less than mature and not completely cycled. So this is that, coupled with the characteristics of these worms that they like to wander, it's not making for it's not making for ideal conditions for them. So I've got to really try to work here to create a much more hospitable environment for them. I mean, look at this worm, the size of him. Wow, it's one big doggy. So do the same over here on this side, mix everything in again. We're going to feed right down the center as well. A little warmer here. I know you're probably wondering to yourself, well, you still haven't really added any grit to their food yet, have you? No, I didn't in bin one, and I'm not in this one either. The worm food that the black soldier fly larva finished, that frass is still being finished. And by that, what I mean is I'm still getting larvae out of that bin. They're almost completely pupated now. They're almost completely brown and wanting to go to become flies, but they're still in the food. And I want to try as best I can to keep these two processes as separate as possible. I don't want them crossing over. Not that there's a problem with that if they did, but I'm really wanting to try to keep these processes separate. So that's part of the reason why the food and the worms both are inside and the flies are on the outside. I just don't want to have to worry about having flies in the house. Number one, they won't last. I've got everything from ants to geckos to centipedes, and that's the last thing that they need to be having to contend with and deal with just to exist. So I'm trying to create a healthier environment for them. It's a stick. Too big from probably one of the leaves. There's something put in here. It's kind of weird. It's hard to tell. I mean, the worms look like they've just been sitting on the sides of the bin, and it could just be that the food's decayed and I haven't really taken that close of a look at it, but it doesn't look, the way it did when I put it in last week. But, this stuff can decay very quickly. It doesn't take long for other things to start breaking that down, primarily that of the bacteria, which is the whole idea behind this. Okay, let me add just a little bit more dry material. We'll put the feeding in, we'll add 20 worms in here, and then we're gonna get this thing closed up. Dry. I know you're probably thinking to yourself, dude, why don't you just dump a whole bunch in there? Well, I do want to try to keep a balance, and it's like I was saying, it's just right now it's a matter of just finding that right balance for the moisture. If I overdo it, then I'm just going to end up having to add more moisture back in, and if I don't add enough, well, like I said before, I would much rather have a wet bin than an overly dry bin any day of the week. I really would. So I'll deal with that as it comes, but right now, let's put a very, very small feeding of some solid materials in the center here. Again, no grit this week yet. I've got a feeling as we get into week 3, maybe as late as week 4, that will be corrected by adding the actual worm food that they're supposed to be eating. Right now, just some small things in here. Some cucumbers, some lettuce and cabbage, some carrot, and yeah. Mom's been put in 2 tomatoes. Has been one. I'll say 1 for bin 3. That's enough. Okay. Get back up. These were the swimmers. We're having a lot of fun today. They enjoy the water tub. They really do. Yeah, there we go. Okay. That is that. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you haven't already, please do like and share this video. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Hit the bell notification icon so you can be alerted to when I upload new content. And until next week, wherever you are in this world today or tonight, take care. Bye for now.